We are not and have never been a good place for serious college basketball analysis to help you with your bracket, to help you pick games. We've faked it with Stugotz and through Stugotz.
Speak for yourself.
For a long time, talking about guard play and length and
Mount St. Mary's.
Leonard Hamilton and them boys, because it's just an excuse to gamble at all times during the day on a Thursday and Friday. And it's so popular, at least in part, because you just get action all day and you get to cheer uniforms and the players are totally interchangeable. And some people really love college basketball, but it's madness because it's a gambling smorgasbord.
I also love the first day. We'll find our guy, the guy we're going to fall in love with for the rest of the tournament.
We'll find him. Be Coach Chair 2022.
Who is New Mexico's 450-pound guy that they find every year to play center because he's enormous and we fall in love with him? There will be somebody, but if you want serious, good help with your bets, help with your analysis, we encourage you. The Underdogs podcast with Tom Haberstroh is a place to go. He is doing deep dives on numbers. Maybe he can help you be more informed about your choices if you're picking brackets or upsets. And also on Basketball Illuminati with Amin and Tom Haberstroh, which has started very strong because you guys like how that one is done. They evidently have secured an exclusive with Ballsack Sports.
Wow.
Ballsack Sports can be found on Basketball Illuminati here.
That's your go-to. I mean,
this is the parody account that's going to make me age like Francesa, and I'm now the guy making the mistakes that I think Freddie Freeman and Carlos Correa are on teams because I'm just being fooled at every turn by the internet.
I don't think that's Ballsack Sports' issue. I think that's too obvious for them to report. Like, you just fell for something. I don't know what happened.
I don't even know what I fell for. Austin, your mom died.
Thanks.
Do you want?
A little harsh. I mean,
do you want?
Rest in peace, Mom. I miss you.
Peel the curtain.
What he's doing? It's my mom.
Stop talking over Jessica. Christ.
Well, stop talking about my mom being dead.
What were you saying, Jessica? Doesn't matter? Okay, very good. Stugotz is very eager to get to the dilution of the 50 burger because he's, you did it 7 times. You want me to play it back for you so you can hear how many times you didn't allow Jessica to talk?
Would you like me to play back for you? You blaming your mistakes on my mom's death?
Rest in power.
Rest in peace, Mom.
Do you want the curtain peeled back on Ballsack Sports? I like it more as a mystery.
Oh, wow. So you're already nuking the promotion of the Basketball Illuminati pod by saying that their big guest stinks because you don't want to hear. You want to know that there's someone behind the curtain. You don't want to know what the mystery is that person can produce.
Jan, I prefer a mystery.
What's that voice again?
What is that voice? Like, what are you doing?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Is that's bored, condescending Steeler fan that's been nuked by the idea that Trubisky and now Mason Rudolph are the quarterbacks?
I have a whole Trubisky segue, but let's get to March Sadness first. We already did the plug. We'll get to Mitch Trubisky later, Dan.
What a tease.
Thank you.
Do you think Stugotz will let you finish your thoughts on whatever it is you have to say about Trubisky?
I'll blame it on my mom if I don't.
Number 6 in the South is Colorado State.
I don't want to get to that yet. I want to get to Stugotz's dilution of the 50 burger. He is not. He's made an announcement that the 50 burger has been diluted, and I think he's not only right. I think that we have to mourn its passing now as Karl Anthony Towns goes for 60, as Kyrie Irving has 41 at the half yesterday and gets pulled out of the game early in the fourth quarter. People are mad at Steve Nash for taking him out.
Kyrie did it. Kevin Durant did it the game before. LeBron's done it twice in the last 10 days or so. And this is interesting, Dan. From 2011 to 2021, there have been 133 games by 92 different players. There have been 132 50 burgers over that span. From 2000 to 2010, there were 85 50 burgers by 54 different players. It's been completely diluted. Like, getting 50 points used to mean something. It used to be jarring when you would see it in a box score, and it's happening with so much regularity right now that it's just not surprising anymore. And so the 50 burger, which used to mean a lot to me, no longer means as much as it used to, and it's a sad day for me.
Okay, and I would ask you and the audience, as Bob Ryan complains about the ruination of basketball, Gus Johnson did it the other day during a March Madness game where he's like, Steph Curry has ruined basketball because everyone is shooting threes.
You said both. Is this that analytics crap? Steph Curry's ruining sports. What? They're related, I guess. It was just a Bob Ryan tangent while he was doing a conference tourney.
But is this not how old people, whether it's Gus Johnson, Stugotz, or Bob Ryan, is it not how they react to evolution, given that the 25-point lead in basketball doesn't mean very much anymore either, because people can just shoot their way back into the game, threes and threes and threes at a time. We've all watched as the entire sport realized, just like baseball did with power, oh, wait, all the money, all the efficiencies, we've been playing wrong. We've been playing this sport wrong the entire time. We were dumb going for the contested two-pointer when the money is, and I remember the first time I saw it, it just happened on the screen. It's a Golden State 3-on-1 break, and two of their guys go to the corners. And I'm like, what the hell kind of fast break is that? You go to the rim. They both go to the corners because the most efficient shot is there, and then they turn the sport upside down. So is this cranky old guy complaining about evolution, or is it actually a worse product? Because you're watching people bomb from all over the place, and in college, poorly, because they can't actually shoot.
Right.
Oh, college is tough.
Yeah, it is
Especially
tough.
if you only pay attention to March Madness and you're coming from watching the NBA regularly. There's a lot of missing. There's a lot of bad basketball. There's a lot of, what do you do? What is this decision? There's a lot of insane contested shots, too, that sometimes they make, and you're like, wow, good on you. But it's not great basketball.
It's not great basketball. I'm not really complaining about the death of the 50 burger. I'm just saying it's been diluted. Like, it's happening so often now.
I'm asking you, are they ruining it, though? If you start...
If you're Gus Johnson and you're lamenting all the threes that are taken, and you're actually finding a way to complain about someone who's really efficient with their three-point shot, are you like, yes, March Madness, that's the good stuff? Because I think somewhere in the in-between might be the right answer. But if you're watching the Golden State Warriors and then you go and you watch Wright State, you're like, what?
Oh, no, but Mike,
this?
Look, college basketball has always been a bad, diluted version of pro basketball, as people look at it and say, I like it there because of the fundamentals. It's always been. But now, because the best of the athletes get into the pipeline earlier and get to the pros, and most of these college teams, even at the highest level, they only get the best guys for a year or two. And then, Reddish and Zion and Barrett are all ending up in the pros very quickly. It's really bad to have them learn their craft from 35 feet out now when they're not ready to play that way. But the whole thing has been distorted. And I ask you and the audience again, has it ruined it for you? Has it changed so much that it's a different game? It's not at the rim. It's a lot of poorly taken three-pointers in college basketball. And Dallas started 0 for 19 from three the other day, Stugotz.
Even Karl Anthony Towns in his 60-point game, he was 7 of 11 from three. He's 7 feet tall. Like, it's just changed.
Okay, but has it changed and you're okay with it, or is it changed in a way that it's going to?
I'm okay with it because I love basketball. Like, I still love watching the playoffs. I love, guys having a lot of pressure on them to win and make big shots in the playoffs, but I'd prefer the game from, I guess, the 90s, the 80s and 90s, where there was a mixture of, you had a big guy, you would throw it into him in the paint. You would have a coach like Riley, who would muck it up in the case of the New York Knicks. Like, I like that. It was a different style, and you still had great three-point shooters. Not as good as today's three-point shooters. So it's changed, but I still love basketball, Dan. It's not going to sour me on basketball as a whole.
The storylines, though, I would say that the dilution of a sport's popularity, if I want to start throwing the way that those things would happen with older people, at least, is make it a different game than it was before. Give the players all of the power to move around all over the place, which I might not be comfortable with if I were an older person who longed for play your whole career in one place. not. Like I don't, and combined with, oh, I don't want the social justice jerseys that tell me to end racism with my sports. I just want to come over here and watch. And slowly what you end up seeing happen among some people who might not like the change is like, this is too much. All of this stuff represents too much change for me. Can I just watch the game the way that I used to love it?
Well, the stories, I think, is what gets everybody into March Madness and upsets in particular. But as there was a quicker path to the NBA, you have so much roster turnover now that upsets happen more because you run into a veteran team with savvy guard play and length, and they can upset Zion. And what does it even matter? This is Zion's first crack at it and only crack at it. What really matters is seeing Tim Duncan lose in the first round, having someone in their third crack trying to go for a tournament championship and being shut out. With all these teams being totally changed over year after year, I even think that the upset is a bit diluted because it's not just always about the uniform that gets upset. Sometimes it's about the individual player stories, and I don't know any of these players. I don't know about them because I don't have time to know them.
It's really changed. Yeah, Carolina's an 8 seed, I think, this year. Carolina's never been an 8 seed. That's not what they are. Carolina's not an 8 seed, but this year there's so much parity in college basketball. Mike is right. That used to be the thing, like with Patrick Ewing. How many championships would he win? And you knew he was going to stay until at least his junior year.
But here comes Steph Curry again in the tournament. Tyler Hansbrough, Here he comes again. JJ Redick. I miss seeing the same elite players in the same tournament year over year.
You're funny, though, because Stugotz is longing for parity. I thought what we're watching right now in both college basketball and the NBA is really uncommon parity. We don't know who's going to win. Maybe it'll be Phoenix, but we don't know who's going to win. And usually in basketball, it's not quite this confusing. But the thing that I'm interested in is, if I start diluting the sport with the certain part of the fan base by all of those things that I tell you, and the way to lure you back into the tent is always the story. What's the story? If I give you Nets and Sixers, you're not going to care how bad that basketball is. You're not going to care if both of those teams are 10 for 45 from 3.
I mean, Knicks, those games weren't aesthetically pleasing, but you had the story to it that those games were wars. But if you look back on it now, you'd be stunned at how bad the basketball was.
Or good, depending on your vantage point, Mike.
Yeah, it was great defense.
Right.
And we also do that too often where we just say that's bad basketball when excellent defense is being played.
Where are the good stories? If LeBron's going to go away now as the one who has dominated this sphere for a while and is only interested in leading the league in scoring now because that's all he's got to play for over there after doing everything he's done with the Lakers, the stories that are best for basketball, let's not make it college basketball. I'm talking about the pros. Obviously, Ben Simmons and the Nets is the very highest place that you can go with stories. But I believe that Phoenix and Milwaukee, even those two guys, Chris Paul and Giannis, should be enough as storytelling goes, but it's not. You need the tension. You need who am I rooting against? Who do I not like out there? It's not just who do I like? Oh, that's a charming story. Who am I rooting for to fail?
Right.
What are the secondary stories in basketball that can overcome the dilutions I'm talking about and get you into the tent no matter what? Is there a second story
specific to
out
the
there?
finals or just
all
a
of
normal?
it? Just
all of it.
If the Warriors and Nets were to meet up in the NBA finals, that would be
fun.
That would be really fun.
Yep.
With the Kevin Durant stuff going against it because the core is still there. Having when LeBron went up against the Miami Heat, it wasn't Bosh and Wade. It was Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, a whole new core.
What I'm saying to you guys is you just saw what football did. Football covers everything. Deshaun Watson, because the games are, I don't know what's going to happen, and they're all decided by 3 points. This is amazing. I can't believe it. 13 seconds. What just happened? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. What just happened to Dallas's entire season? 13 seconds. Where was the timeout? All of the games are that.
You reading the playoffs lyrics from the big game?
What are the games you need? What are the games you need in basketball to make it as we head into parity, as it's unknown, right? I thought Ben Simmons was coming back. The people around Ben Simmons think he was coming back.
I think that there's juice. I'm going to be Homer. I think there's always juice whenever Miami plays Philadelphia. Those two teams don't like each other.
Yeah, but no one cares, Mike.
Nationally, I think
I'm
that
not certain anyone cares about this team.
How about national interest in Milwaukee and Miami? It would be round 3, third consecutive playoffs. It would be the rubber match of two teams. You have the bubble thing. You have Miami being broken last year.
I think a lot of people would say this is round 3.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Well,
You know?
if that's
I'm throwing
if
possible
if that's the
I know.
second place that you go, is the only story that can save the dilution I'm talking about, where Stugotz is shrugging his shoulders on 50 burgers. He's saying, 50 doesn't matter anymore. And he's not wrong. We used to laugh when Corey Brewer or Willie Burton would throw up 50, but now Karl Anthony Towns goes for 60. And you have every right in the world right now to be legitimately mad that Kyrie Irving, that once that game, they were winning against Orlando by 40 and 50 points. Let Kyrie Irving go see if he can get to Kobe's 81. Why wouldn't you just run everything through Kyrie Irving once you get to that point in that game?
I mean, he gets enough rest.
Yeah, when you're talking about playoff, interest and matchups and storylines, this is where you feel where the Knicks aren't good or relevant this season.
Or the Lakers.
Because
Right.
we kind of knew what was going on with that Hawks and Knicks series, and these teams got people fooled a little bit. There was, I think, a half game separating the 3 and the 7 seeds in the Eastern Conference last year, but the Knicks were interesting because so many people were interested, and it meant something. So I'm bummed that storyline's not there, even if it's playing rounds.
Would people get excited about Ja Morant advancing to the finals?
Yes.
They would, right?
We would
Yeah.
we would turn it into the Iverson thing with Ja Morant, and I think that there's an appeal because even though he's doing these things above the rim that no rational human being can point to and say I can do that, you have a bunch of people that are just identifying with, hey, this guy's not the tallest guy, and if I could dream to be anybody, it would be this guy because I could grow up to be 6'2".
I'm trying to think of other angles, other things that would be interesting. Is Kawhi coming back? Do we know if he's coming back?
Yeah.
Because that team making a deep run with Kawhi would be interesting to a lot of people, I think.
It's not just,
the return of the Warriors in the playoffs, I think, would be interesting.
I would say to you that on top of those storylines, all of the secondary storylines are obviously much more diluted than Nets, Sixers, and whatever that could or would be if the Nets indeed make the playoffs. But the next thing that the league needs, if you're Adam Silver and you have seen, your league has taken a hit during the pandemic that football did not. Football did not take that hit. That league at the moment, we've been celebrating Adam Silver for a while for being the most progressive commissioner. That league needs some of its stories to carry it. And one of the secondary stories that Stugotz mentioned by mentioning Morant that it desperately needs now that it's run off the fuel of LeBron for that many years is these young people need to start coming and producing these stories. Joel Embiid turns 28, I think, today.
You want to hear something shocking? Austin Hooper's 27.
No way. No way.
20. I grew up watching Austin Hooper. There's no way he's 27.
It's impossible.
There's no way. I refuse to believe it. The Austin Hooper that as soon as he catches a ball falls to the ground. That's his move. Catch, fall. He's 27.
I was talking about Hoopers. I don't know why it is you took it
because you
to
said
Austin
Joel Embiid
Hooper.
is 28, and all I can think of is that's older than Austin Hooper. Does not compute.
You just need to watch more Pac-12 football, Mike. The only reason
Why
I know
is this
Austin
voice
Hooper's
coming out
name
again?
is because he played at Stanford. And let me tell you something else.
Oh,
about
for the love of
Hoopers.
God.
My least favorite character.
I don't even know what the character is. What is the
So
character?
much worse than Cuban Pilot.
It's
Are
not-
you even
it's-
So
talking
Cuban
about?
Pilot's
All right,
fire.
let's have Cuban Pilot talk to this character of indiscriminate.
But what is the
I don't
character?
know.
That's
I
not.
don't know.
Cuban
No,
Pilot
we gotta-
is not going to speak
Now,
to this
when is
character
my
well.
flight going to land?
Mami, mira.
It's very limited.
So the number 6 in the South Seed, Colorado
Yes,
State.
let's go ahead and play
March
the number.
Madness
we gotta do this.
presented by 5 Hour Energy.
We do have to update our tournament here because there are a lot of teams here that we have not gotten to. And again, we tell you that you need to support the sponsors, please, that support us. And 5 Hour Energy Drink is now sponsoring our March Sadness tournament. The South Colorado State is represented as a 6 seed by...
Mike McCarthy looks like the police officer who shows up on the murder scene while licking the last remnants of a breakfast burrito off his fingers and says, "Seems like natural causes," while standing in a pool of blood with shell casings everywhere.
11th seed, that Mike McCarthy is facing Michigan, and Michigan is represented by
Brian Kelly looks like the husband on the Hawaiian vacation that starts slowly dancing his way over to the hula girls, only to be stopped short by his wife of 35 years, dragging him back by the ear.
Not to bring it back to serious sports, but Colorado State is the higher seed. That never used to happen. They're the 6. Michigan is the 11. What happened to the days of Glenn Rice and Loy Vaught and Ramil Robinson? Those are the glory days of the
What happened
tournament.
to the days of Nick Stauskas?
Oh, Nick Stauskas. Stowski.
Didn't you claim that Tom Brady announced his unretirement because Michigan missed the tournament and he was upset?
You didn't pick it up till now, huh?
I actually couldn't find it on the list. I was like, I think they're in, but I couldn't find it fast enough.
in the South, the 3 seed Tennessee is represented by
Jay Glazer looks like a D battery.
The 3 seed is facing South Longwood, represented by.
No, it's just
just Longwood.
South Longwood.
It's just
Might
Longwood
as well.
in the South.
It's a fine. Yeah, couple
Is it? All
dollars.
right,
Yeah.
it's a fine.
I went to a wake there once.
Longwood is represented by
Arthur Smith looks like he eats up the leftover pizza kids leave on their plates at a birthday party while mumbling, "Just doing my part."
We've done Providence, a 4 seed. Providence represented by
Joe Burrow looks like the mafia boss's son who designs a terrible line of T-shirts, and everyone wears them because they're afraid his dad will shoot them in the kneecap.
Also in the Midwest, facing Joe Burrow is South Dakota State.
Ben McAdoo looks like the guy who shows up in blue scrubs with a wheelchair to take Ma to Shady Pines. If you think about it, so does Bob McAdoo.
Can I hear the beginning of that again? Because I think he said Bob McAdoo both times, and we just edited in awkwardly a Ben.
Ben McAdoo looks like the guy who shows up in blue scrubs with a wheelchair to take Ma to Shady Pines. If you think about it, so does Bob McAdoo.
Can you put on the poll, please? Who looks like they show up more in blue scrubs with a wheelchair to take Ma to Shady Pines? Ben McAdoo or Bob McAdoo? Now, Mike, I want to run through these a little bit because we have played some of these over the last couple of days, and I want to get to some of the new ones here. So can we go over to the West bracket on page 2 over here and go to UConn so that I could go through some of the new ones? Because, of course, we've got Jimmy Johnson looking like a satirical French magazine's cartoon drawing of an American, and you know that that is playing Blake Snell, who looks like the mechanic staring back at you through the plexiglass window as you sit in the lobby of a Jiffy Lube. But let's get to some of the new ones over here so people don't hear the redundancies. Out west, UConn, represented as a 5 seed by
Kirby Smart looks like the fellow shopper who gives unsolicited advice at Home Depot.
Also, if you're on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, they are featured in one of my Boost promos. I have a parlay that features UConn in there, and you can get it at a special price if you're in a DraftKings Sportsbook state.
We've got to tell people that more and more. I keep forgetting to do that because that is something that
I'm trying to get some social assets so I can push it out there because I feel really good about this parlay, as I always do.
This is the one, huh?
This is the one that hits. This is the one that you feel good about. Out west again, New Mexico State is represented by
Trevor Lawrence looks like the owner of an organic granola clusters company called Hacky Snacks.
Are hacky sacks still a thing?
Of course they are.
The
Come
business
on.
of hacky sacks is still something.
They just had their biggest year, yeah. Yep. Pandemic. Big winner. Them and free weights.
And trampolines.
Arkansas, the 4 seed out west.
Razorbacks.
Are the Razorbacks also featured in that parlay? If you want to know the third team, it's Iowa.
Arkansas is represented by
Daniel Jones looks like an actor playing Eli Manning in a Peyton Manning biopic.
Vermont is a 13 seed. Here's Vermont.
Wade Phillips looks like the guy who shows up to the Zoom meeting and can't figure out how to turn off the cat filter.
The Catamounts.
Oh, you remember that team that upset? Who did they upset? Syracuse?
I can't remember who
Taylor
they upset.
Coppenrath and TJ Sorrentine.
The Orange. I can't remember who they upset. John Becker, their coach. I love the Catamounts. I do. I got good guard play,
It's
Dano.
so weird that every time I lament like these teams that I know the players on, it's always white guys because white guys stuck around. Do you remember how long Nick Collison was in college? Man.
Shooter. Everybody used to yell.
He was their post presence.
No, I know, but people, Collison told me the story that his entire life, every time he took a court, people yelled shooter, and he was embarrassed by it because he wasn't a shooter.
Wasn't his thing, no.
But they just assumed he was.
But he had Heinrich on that team. Shooter.
Mike, good job out of you. 60-57 over Syracuse. The
Taylor
Catamounts.
Coppenrath
Yes.
and TJ Sorrentine. Can you tell I had action on that one?
Who are the stories that are going to capture us here? Is this thing? Are you descending?
I'm just the biggest Charlie Moore fan you can find right now. It's all about my Canes and USC.
They play Friday in the middle of the afternoon, and this Hurricane team has been a good basketball team. They've been enjoyable to watch.
All their games have come down to the wire. All the games seem to be in the final possession. You're at the edge of your seat. Cardiac Canes, many are calling them.
Are there many calling them that? I don't believe.
No, I actually don't watch much college basketball outside of the Miami Hurricanes. I've just cut out college basketball.
Is Zagacki calling them that? Is that?
Is he calling them that?
I believe it sounds like something
He
Joe would
sounds
say.
like a jazz
it,
band
yeah.
on sneakers.
Yeah, he does call them
jazz band on sneakers. The Cardiac Canes.
I think it's in sneakers, not on sneakers.
No,
you get it
they're-
right.
Yeah,
That's
you have to
fine.
strap yourself into sneakers. All right.
All right, put it on the poll, Guillermo.
Easy there, Bob McAdoo.
Are the Cardiac Canes?
That's his mom died. How dare you?
Are the Cardiac Canes indeed a jazz band in sneakers?
It's a fine, Jano.
Joining us. Can you get me the Greg Olsen looks like from previous generations
Yeah.
to see if he wants
I've
to?
seen that. I've actually seen that.
Put a
Okay.
smile on your face.
Which one?
I love it. I
Which,
love that. I
which-
love good humor.
which one is the one
Even
that
if
you
I'm the
like?
brunt of it. Man, I've seen people that think I look like that guy with like the neck roll. He's like an actor or something. Dexter. I've seen that a lot. seen a lot of them.
Are you noticing that
All in
people?
good fun.
Are you noticing that a lot of people who aren't as good at this broadcasting thing and color analyst thing are making a whole lot of money that you're not making because you've gotten very good at this game very fast?
I've I've been noticing the contracts. Yes. We'll see how it all works out. It's a wild world right now, man. I mean, you guys know it. It's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of guys up for jobs. It's interesting. That's for sure.
What's the feedback you've gotten? I always admire the athletes who get into broadcasting and then apply themselves to broadcasting the way they applied themselves meticulously to being great at their sport, where they turn into something competitive, and it's a point of pride to make sure that they're good as an analyst. Did you surprise yourself with the amount of great feedback you got this year because it jumped off the screen that you knew what you were talking about and that you were doing it very well?
You know, I have this, and in a lot of things it's very good, and in a lot of things it's also very exhausting. But I have really just this only way of doing things is like full tilt. I mean, if you ask my wife, I probably drive her crazy. It doesn't matter if it's how I run my kids' baseball team or how I try to do my own career or how I try the broadcasting thing. Like, I'm just a big believer. Like, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it and give it everything you got and be good at it. You know, I never really set out to have people tell me I was good or whatnot. I thought I would be good. I thought I always saw the game and always enjoyed talking the game. And I knew as long as I enjoyed it and as long as I was, you know, the way I came across was authentic and people knew I was real. They might not have liked what I said or agreed how I said it, but I think there was like an authenticity that you want to try to be true to yourself and the way you see it, call it. And I think it maybe sounded a little different than other broadcasts. It felt a little different. Maybe it was a little less predictable, a little more, I don't know, different, I guess. And I didn't try to do anything particular. I just tried to be me and see things and call things how I saw them. And that was the result.
Give me the things that you make your wife crazy, the most extreme all-in things that drive your wife nuts because she knows her husband, she loves her husband, but he's a lunatic.
Yeah, I've always said, like, my obsessive nature about my career was always very good to play professional sports, right? Every morning you woke up till the morning, when you woke up in the morning till you went to bed and put your head down at night, like your mind was always on it. You were always trying to find what was everybody else doing? What was your competition doing? Did you work out enough? You ate like crap. You're getting fat, whatever. Like I would obsess over it all. And it was beneficial. But then in your home life, your wife wants you to go sleep outside. She thinks you're crazy. So it's just, I don't know. It's not, I've gotten a lot better at being a little bit more easygoing around the house than I was when I was doing my career, and retirement's been nice. And that's why the broadcasting thing has been good, because it's allowed me to be like hyper OCD and drive towards something and kind of get my fix. And then when I'm home, I've kind of checked those boxes. I've filled that bucket, and I can kind of take a deep breath and back up a little bit.
What kind of youth baseball manager are you? Do you yell at the umps? Have you been kicked out of games? Like, what are you doing there, Olsen?
No, I'm not an ump yeller.
Okay.
I'm not an ump yeller. And so I have two rules. So I only talk to my kids, like not my own kids. I mean, like the kids on my team.
Right.
If I'm coaching the team, those kids are my utmost responsibility. I do not go out of my way to talk to the other coaches. I mean, I say hello and whatnot, but like if they want to yell at the umps, I let them be. If they want to, however they want to act, I let them be. I coach my kids to the fullest. I'm hard on them. I demand that they do it the right way. Like we do it. This is one of my obsessive things that not everyone agrees with. Like I believe if we're going to do it, we might as well teach them the right way, right? My one rule is if the other coach talks to my kids or in any sort of disrespectful or one-off comment or makes it, that's where I draw the line. And then I'm going to go after them and I'm going to shut it down quick. Like I am not looking to fight with coaches. I definitely don't want to fight with umpires. I don't argue calls. I don't run on the field and complain. But if I've had a few times where the opposing coach has said something to one of my kids or made a comment out loud that I just took as disrespectful, and that's when I jump, because I am not, those kids are my responsibility. I take great pride in that, and I'm not going to let anyone disrespect them. Past that, I coach my kids, you coach your kids, and we'll see how it comes at the end.
He's tackling some of this stuff in a new podcast, Youth Inc., the first podcast from Audiorama. It's a journey into the changing world of youth sports in America. So I will ask you two questions. What is your most controversial opinion about how to correctly coach kids with toughness? But before I get the answer to that question, give me the story, the specifics and the details of what made Greg Olsen charge across a diamond, the former tight end of the Carolina Panthers, and make a dad shit himself on the spot because you were enraged at the disrespect.
All right. So I remember, I'm glad you asked. I was kind of hoping you asked because it's a really good story. And so it was like 8-year-old baseball. And and I know this sounds crazy to everybody, but like there is such thing as competitive 8-year-old baseball in America. And my older son was doing it. So this was 2-3 years ago. And we were playing a team. It was in North Carolina. It was like a local little tournament. And it was actually my own son was at first base, and they hit back-to-back balls into the outfield. And what does every single kid do at 8 years old? If you're the first baseman and the ball gets hit, what do? You run and you stand on first base. They didn't know yet about if there's no infield play, you got to get, trail behind the runner and get out of the base path in case the kid wants to go to second. Okay. So my kid goes and he plants his feet on second base. The ball's in right field. And their runner had to, understandably so, like avoid him at first base. And he got thrown out at second. And fairly, he did get interfered by my kid at first base. So the umpires come out. We talk about it. I saw it happen. And I was like, I'll correct it. So I said, hey, Tate, it just happened to be my kid. I was like, hey, Tate, you can't be on first base now when the ball, there's no play. Okay. So literally the next batter, the kid hits it again into the outfield, and my kid does the exact same thing. Mind you, he's 7, 8 years old. Their kid runs, avoids. So the same thing happened, but there's no play. Their coach is now standing on, I can picture it, on first base dugout along the dugout. He walks like towards the base path, and he yells to his kid now who got a double. He's on second base. Hey, Johnny, next time he's there, just run him over. So I called time.
Oh,
I said,
boy.
Time.
Oh, no.
And I walked out into the middle of the dugout. And I just said, hey, listen, you can coach your kid. I'm out here coaching all of our kids. He's 7, he's 8 years old. Yes, he should not be standing in the base path. but you're barking up the wrong tree here, pal.
Oh, boy.
We're not doing that. We're not going to embarrass and yell out that you're going to telling your kid to run my kid over. And I said, you picked the wrong kid, especially because that's my kid. And if you know what I mean? Like, and if your kid ran him over, no problem. He's in the way, but you're not going to scream it across the dugout and make a scene by telling your kid who's now on second to run the first baseman over because he's 7 and he doesn't understand that he can't stand on first base on an extra base hit. So that was probably I'm not going to lie, I was pissed. And we handled it. After the game, he came up. We had a nice conversation. No harm, no foul.
Well, what is handling it, though? What is it? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It was a good conversation.
Right.
The second, if anything happens between me and another coach or even me and a parent, right? I'm a big believer when it's over, it's over. I'm not going to drag it on and we're not going to take it after the game. So after the game, we shake hands on, we line up on the lines. This was before COVID when you were actually allowed to high five and shake hands. And he comes up, he's like, coach, I'm sorry. I said, listen, no need. We're good. I probably would have done the similar thing that you did. I probably just wouldn't have yelled it. I probably would have just said it to my kid in the dugout. But no harm, no foul, man. You were competing hard coaching your kids. I'm going to coach my kids. I'm sure we'll play each other again. No worries. And we go about our day.
Right. Well, technically, he was right, though. I mean,
he was. Oh, 100% he was right.
Good.
The message was right. The message was right. And I tried to coach it from the prior instance. I didn't love the delivery. You don't need to walk out into the field to play and scream across the diamond to the kid at second that the next time the first baseman's in your way, just run him over. It's just unnecessary.
Do you have any?
A lot of look at me coaches in youth sports.
Do you have any regret though about the word choices? Because it seems like something out of the 80s. You are barking up the wrong tree.
It's perfect,
pal. You're like
no, it's what you say in that spot.
It does seem it is your.
It just came out, man. I don't know where the
it came out perfectly.
Came from. It felt right, and that was it. Again, it was 10 seconds. It was less. It was more about the tone of him trying to say run a kid over. If you want to coach your kid hard, hold them accountable, I'm all for that. The kids on my teams all understand the way we're going to do it, but I'm not going to yell at your kids. I'm not going to talk to your kids and put them down. I'm not going to yell. We're all responsible for our own kids, and I take great pride in that.
I don't think, as we talk a little bit about your career here, Greg, I don't think that people understand or can understand how hard it is and what it takes to be as excellent as you were at what you do. Can you articulate to the audience what the pain was like, the daily pain, the weekly pain, the off-season pain, the stuff that makes us all marvel that Tom Brady can still do this in his 40s because of how much what you guys do hurts, even though the rules are different on football for Tom Brady than they are for you?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Until my last few years, I didn't really have that experience. My last few years, I broke my 1 foot twice. I ruptured both my plantar fascias. I played with them broke. I played with them ruptured. It was a mess. It was a 24-hour cycle for like 3 years of in season. I would go into the facility, rehab, get through practice, post-practice rehab, preventative stuff, come home. I'd hire a PT. They would come over, we would work, and I'd go to bed and start up the next day. But that really wasn't until the very end of my career. For my first 10, 11 years, I missed 2 games my rookie year. The first 2 games I got dinged up in training camp. I played over 10 years straight without missing. So I was very fortunate to never have anything significant in the injury front. My last few years were a little bit of a grind, and that's when I eventually said, all right, I can't do this anymore.
But wait, what you just described was not a little bit of a grind, Greg. What you just described as ho-hum, my last 3 years were a walking misery of nothing but treating myself so I could keep doing this thing that I love that hurts. Like, that had to be a daily misery. That I don't know how happy you must have been unpleasant to be around. You can't spend 3 years in that particular hell just to get to 16 Sundays and be a happy human being.
Well, remember how we started this conversation when I said that that nature could be very useful for one things, but it also could make you a miserable person during the season. And at times you take it, that's a whole nother conversation. But the one thing I will say is, as annoying as it was and physically demanding and whatnot, it really, the biggest challenge was just how you approached it mentally. And the one thing I will say throughout my entire career, the day-to-day, like Groundhog's Day of just same thing, routine, order, programming, workouts, off season, OTAs, that part never bothered me. So like the daily, do the same thing, get up at the same time, do the same routine, work out, train, get hurt, start all over the next week. Like that mental approach never bothered me. That was always something I kind of leaned into, because I learned at a very early age down at Miami. Obviously you guys very familiar with the program and what they do. I learned from an early time in Miami that if I didn't find an edge outside of just being big, fast, tall, and run, I wasn't going to make it. So like I needed to know early on that the part that I could embrace and lean into was a way that I could distance myself from everybody else, right? The more physically talented guys than me that weren't willing to do what I was willing to do on a everyday, daily basis was how I survived so long. So I learned that as a freshman at Miami, where I break the huddle and there's 9 first rounders and I'm on the scout team and Sean Taylor's trying to kill me and DJ Williams and Jonathan Vilma and Antrell Roll. And I mean, go up and down the list, Vince Wilfork. I mean, they're all on the same team. And I'm this 18-year-old kid from New Jersey saying, I'm not going to make it here. So I learned really quick, the harder it got, the better I could be. The hotter it was, the harder it was, the more injured everybody was. The end of the season, like that was always my time to shine, because that part I never leaned away from. I was never going to win the beauty contest. I was never going to win who looked the best in their uniform. That just wasn't my style. And I knew that. I knew what I was early on and told myself, if you're not willing to do this part that sucks, you're not going to make it.
How many people have you run into in your life, football or otherwise, where you say to yourself, that person has a will that exceeds mine or is equal to mine? Because to get to where you got to with, I'm not gonna insult your physical gifts, but you yourself are saying, look, there are any number of people here who are much more athletic at this. So who are the guys you looked at and said, or inside or outside of sports, these people are more willful than I am? Because I can't imagine it happened to you very often.
Yeah, I mean, there are some guys that you just look at and marvel about just their approach, right? Their willingness to just grind on a daily basis, and it's hard because anytime you say a guy's work ethic and whatnot, we've been programmed to assume that if the first thing you point out is the guy's a hard worker or he's smart or he probably is not that talented, right? For whatever reason, we've programmed ourselves that there's two extremes. You're either super elite talented, or you're just like the hard work grinder. The really, really special guys, the Luke Kuechly's of the world, the Christian McCaffreys of the world, those really, really unique guys, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson. I mean, I can go Bobby Wagner, like just guys that I've played with that are elite. They're born with unique gifts. They're extremely talented. They're strong. I mean, if you saw Luke Kuechly in the weight room, if you saw him in a polo shirt, you'd be like, who's that guy? And then when he took his shirt off and you started lifting, you'd be like, wow, like this guy's unbelievable. But his approach, his mentality, his ability to do the same thing every day. Same thing with McCaffrey. Like that's what separates the truly elite guys. And I was not as physically gifted as Cam Newton. I wasn't, his muscles were bigger than mine. He was faster, right? Like I didn't have those unique qualities. So I learned at the University of Miami with Kevin Everett and, Sean Taylor and Antrell Roll. I mean, the guys that I'm trying to compete with in summer conditioning drills, let alone on the field, they were just better than me physically. And I had to find a way that I was willing to embrace the hard part as long as they were, if not longer, in order to just stay with the group,
Let's study your craftsmanship about the position and how much, because you're applying yourself so much to how can I be better than these guys, and just give me some rapid fire answers to some questions about tight ends that I've got. The most athletic tight end that you have seen, just athleticism, is blank.
Kellen Winslow Jr.
And so that was in college. In college where you feel like you don't belong, right? You're like, I can't do this. This person is a lot better than me.
Yeah, he was off the charts athletically.
But still, until this day, that's the guy you're going with.
Yeah, at the tight end position. Yeah.
Okay.
Who awes you the most at that position?
Right now, Kelsey. And and I don't say that lightly, because right now in my mind there's like a 2-man race with Kelsey and Kittle, right? You'd take either one and you'd be thrilled. The thing that I find that I marvel about Kelsey and what he's done is he's had 6 1,000-yard seasons. Years back in 2016, I got 3, and no one had ever done 3. And it was something I took great pride in. He's now had 6. And the reason that it's so impressive is it's a position. We started, earlier in the conversation, we talked about the ability, the injuries and working through stuff. To be that good, that productive, and that consistently healthy and available and on the field, to be that productive and have over 1,000 yards 6 times in a row, it is remarkable. So I just marvel at not only his skills and his creativity on the field and the way he runs, but just the fact that every weekend he's on the field. That in and of itself is defying the position in most guys' experience. And for that, I think it's just really remarkable what he's been able to do.
It's not a system thing either. He did that with Alex Smith. Some of that was with Alex Smith, so it wasn't just Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, he's just, him and Kittle are very uniquely special, and they both have such unique qualities. And, maybe Kittle puts on that stretch. I mean, at any moment he can. A little different system, not quite as volume-oriented in the passing game for him to put up those kind of numbers. But all things considered, what Kelsey's doing is remarkable.
The quarterback, tight end, accuracy, chemistry combination that I envied was blank.
I mean, I'll tell you, I wouldn't put what Cam and I did behind anyone. I know Gronk and Brady, obviously, the records they share, they did it over maybe a longer period of time. They had maybe a few more years. I ended up getting hurt on the last. But when you looked at Cam and I's 5-6 year run together, when we were both healthy and both in there every game, we were at or near the top of almost every production statistic or whatnot. I think overall body of work, when you factor in playoff games and what they've done in the postseason with Super Bowls and whatnot. I mean, Brady and Gronk, what they've been able to do and their connection, there's a reason that Gronk's staying with them, right? And I don't blame them. And they have we called a few of the Tampa games this year, and we talked about it on air. Like, you can't coach what they do. You can't defend and coach the defense against what they do. There's things that they're doing that the only 2 people on the field who understand what they're going to do and how they're going to do it are the 2 of them. If you asked Cameron Brate, or if you asked OJ Howard, if you ask anybody on the opposing defense, hey, tell me why no one could tell you. And that's when you're really hard to beat, is when nobody can even tell you why you're productive or why you're good. You just are. It's very hard to figure those guys out.
He's host of a new podcast, You Think, the first podcast from Audiorama. It is a study of youth sports in America. Many of you, he's very good at what he does. It's been a pleasure to see his growth as a broadcaster. Before we get you out of here, though, I'm going to ask you if you look like 1 to 10. You got to rank these. The 10 is the best. 1 is the worst. Greg Olsen looks like He-Man if he moved to Portland and opened a store that sells artisanal jams.
That's one of my all-time favorites. I had the beard and the beanie. That's a really good one. I remember that from years back. That's like a 9. I think that's really good.
Wow.
Greg Olsen looks like the nude art class volunteer who posed for your girlfriend's class and for some reason handed out his card to all the students on the way out.
I don't know if I'd pose nude, but it's still funny. I'd give that like a 6.
Greg Olsen looks like the Swedish masseuse your sexually naive ex-wife begins dating soon after your divorce is finalized.
You like it?
It's probably an 8. It's probably not an insult. Right?
It is not, sir. Thank you for being on with us. Stugotz feels obligated to ask you the question we ask all the University of Miami guys. Usually I ask, is that the most fun you've ever had in football? If one year, all the pro guys that played at UM say the most fun they ever had was a year at the University of Miami, but Stugotz has a better question.
Is the U back?
I was there yesterday.
Oh, boy.
I'll tell you what. I was there yesterday. I'm in Miami right now. It's the first sunny day since we've been here, and I'm sitting here talking to you guys, so happy to do it. But I'm looking out over the Miami beach right now. So we took the kids over and we saw Mario. So Mario Cristobal was my tight end coach in college. I've known him since I was in 10th grade in high school. He's a dear friend of mine. If anybody is the guy for that job, and I know we've said this the last 5 head coaches, the U's back. If the U is ever going to be back, there's no one else to do it but Mario. And I sat in his office yesterday, the plans they have for new facilities they're going to announce, the way he's kind of broken down and rebuilt that culture. And all I'm going to say is, for any Miami fans out there, the things that they have down the pipeline that are real, like I'm not saying in 5 years, that are going to be announced in the next couple months, from facilities indoors, potential new stadiums. I mean, it's full steam ahead, and Mario wouldn't have taken the job if all these things weren't going to be followed through. And I have the utmost confidence in Mario, and I don't know if they're back today, but they're gonna be back, and that's just because I have the utmost faith and confidence in Mario and that staff. I mean, the staff he's putting together is incredible.
Why wait a couple months? Let's just announce some of them right now. You know,
I can't do that to him.
You want to come in
That's my
studio
guy.
tomorrow? You're in Miami.
Why-
You want to come in studio?
How are you a couple of blocks from us?
Hey, it's
Are you-
supposed to rain tomorrow,
Are you
too.
staying at the Clevelander? Like, how are you
No.
just a few feet from here?
No, we're down on Key Biscayne. So
All right.
we're down to Key Biscayne, and
Close. Yeah.
we got the kids down here for the week on spring break. So
Mm-hmm.
the weather's been terrible.
I'm sorry, Greg. Why are you blaming us for
I
What
this?
are
know.
you guys doing? Because you guys are in Miami. Aren't you supposed to guarantee all of us Northerners?
But it
has-
sounds like we're going to see you tomorrow, though, right? I mean, we'll discuss it then.
See you later, Olsen.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
See you, man.
Thank you, Greg.